There once was a man who lived in a quiet village, surrounded by hills and golden fields. His name was Elias. Every morning he woke up before sunrise, tied his old boots, and walked down the same dusty road toward the market. He sold hand-carved wooden toys, small animals, spinning tops, and tiny windmills that turned gently in the breeze. Elias's toys were simple, nothing fancy, nothing that would make him rich, but there was something about them, something almost alive. Children loved them. Their laughter followed him through the market, and for a moment Elias would smile. Yet when the day ended and the sun sank behind the hills, he would pack up what was left, return to his small cottage, and sit alone by the window. He often whispered to himself, "There must be more than this. There must be something I've missed." He wasn't unhappy exactly, but deep inside there was a quiet emptiness, like the pause between two breaths. One evening, a storm came over the village. The wind howled through the valley, bending trees and rattling doors. Elias stepped outside to tie down the roof, but as he worked, he heard something strange, a voice carried by the wind. It wasn't a sound made by man or animal. It was gentle, almost like a sigh, and it said, "Why do you carve what you do not believe in?" Elias froze. He called out, "Who's there?" But only the wind answered. That night he couldn't sleep. The question haunted him. Why do you carve what you do not believe in? He realized something painful. Every toy he made was only for survival, not for joy. He had forgotten the wonder that once lived in his hands. He carved what people would buy, not what he loved. Days turned into weeks, but the whisper stayed. Every time the wind brushed against his window, he felt it, as if the world itself was trying to speak to him. One morning, Elias packed a small bag, locked his shop, and walked into the hills. He didn't know where he was going. He just followed the sound of the wind. For hours he climbed until he reached a high meadow. There the wind danced wildly through tall grass, whispering secrets only the sky could hear. He sat down, closed his eyes, and said softly, "If you are truly speaking to me, then teach me." And the wind replied, not with words, but with silence so vast that Elias could hear his own heart. He stayed there for days. He watched clouds drift like old memories. He listened to birds, to rivers, to his own breath, and slowly something began to change inside him. He remembered the boy he once was, the boy who carved toys, not to sell, but to give joy. He remembered the stories he used to imagine for each creation, the wooden horse that dreamed of flying, the spinning top that chased rainbows. He had forgotten that beauty until the wind reminded him. When Elias finally returned to the village, people hardly recognized him. There was light in his eyes again. He opened his small shop and began to carve once more, but this time not for money. He carved what he believed in. He carved a bird with broken wings to remind people that even if you fall, you can still sing. He carved a small child reaching toward the sky to remind people to dream higher.
He carved a windmill, not to sell, but to place on the hill, so that every breeze would spin it and whisper, "You are alive." At first, people didn't understand. They said, "These toys won't sell. Why waste your time?" But slowly, something miraculous happened. Travelers began to visit the village. They bought Elias's carvings, not because they needed toys, but because they needed hope. Years passed. Elias grew old. His hands became slower, but his heart stronger. Children who once played with his toys grew up and brought their own children to see him. One day, a young man asked, "Master Elias, how did you find your purpose?" Elias smiled. He pointed toward the window where the windmill turned gently in the breeze. He said, "I stopped chasing what the world wanted me to be, and I started listening to what life was whispering inside me." The young man thought for a moment, then said, "So the wind really spoke to you?" Elias laughed softly. "It always has. The question is, were you listening?" That night, when the wind blew through the village again, it carried the faint sound of music, the hum of a man carving joy into wood, the rhythm of peace found after a lifetime of noise. And those who passed by his window swore they could hear the wind laughing softly, as if to say, "He finally understood." Message of the story: listen to the whispers within. The world outside will always be loud, but the truth speaks quietly. Do what you believe in, not what others expect from you. Pain, emptiness, and confusion are not signs of failure. They are invitations to return to yourself.